Part 99. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 981. And the premiere of Following All the Way was in the early morning after the awards ceremony. So as soon as the award-winning list was announced, the pre-sale of this movie exploded. The award ceremony finally ended, and everyone went to a nearby 5-star hotel to have an after-party. Wen Qiao still wanted to accompany Zhou Tao, but suddenly a hand appeared behind her, grabbing her hand firmly and forcefully. Wen Qiao didn't even need to look back, the touch was too familiar to her, it was Fu Nanli. With a strong effort from the man, she was pulled into his broad embrace. "Stay by my side." People were coming and going, and the man's deep voice sounded in her ears. Wen Qiao immediately turned to look at him with a smile. "Okay. If she doesn't accompany him, she will be the unlucky one tonight. I saw you on the big screen many times today. You are very handsome. Fu Nanli is like dynamite. No matter what Wen Qiao says, it can ignite him." "You mean I'm not handsome?" "Wen Qiao, of course not, they are both handsome." Wen Qiao saw Lu Wenzhou following Zhou Tao like a shadow. Since everyone was leaving the venue together, it was inevitably a bit crowded. Lu Wenzhou stretched out his hand to block Zhou Tao's back, as if to prevent others from crowding Zhou Tao. Wen Qiao was in a complicated mood for a moment. He held Fu Nanli's arm and whispered, "Look at Lu Wenzhou." Fu Nanli's temples twitched. "Are you still in the mood to look at others?" "Wen Qiao, you are a bit unreasonable." The hand on his waist tightened, and the man said coldly, "Am I being unreasonable?" Wen Qiao said helplessly, "I'll talk to you in the car later." Lu Wenzhou in front blocked everyone who wanted to squeeze past Zhou Tao. He was tall and stood behind her like a barrier. Junling, on the other hand, was in front, looking back at Zhou Tao from time to time. Naturally, he also saw Lu Wenzhou. From the beginning, he felt that the relationship between Mr. Lu and Zhou Tao was unusual. Now that he saw it, his guess was correct. Because of Zhou Tao's reputation crisis, both Lu brothers came forward to clarify the situation. Not only that, the Lu family's legal department also issued a solemn statement. It was also because of the Lu family's legal department that netizens did not dare to spread rumors out of thin air. Finally leaving the venue, there was a row of luxury cars outside, and the first ones to get on were naturally the big guys. Wen Qiao was pulled into the car by Fu Nanli. And Lu Wenzhou had to get in the car. There were a group of reporters outside, and Zhou Tao didn't know how she was dragged by a bunch of reporters to stand with Junling. Probably just wanted to make big news. In short, reporters from all directions surrounded the two of them, and the overwhelming flashlights flashed directly at her face. Lu Wenzhou was sitting in the car and wanted to get out of the car. Lu Su pulled him back. "Second brother, you can't get out of the car now. We can only let her deal with it by herself." In the car in front, Wen Qiao also wanted to get out of the car, but Fu Nanli stopped him. "You want to protect her forever? She is not a child star. She is even 1 year older than you. If you want to join the entertainment industry, you can't. There are thousands of people, so I don't think there's any need for her to stay in this circle. Capital is ruthless, but what it says is wise." The black car passed in front of them slowly. Lu Wenzhou's car window was half opened, and his eyes lingered on Zhou Tao's face in the middle of the group of reporters. Finally walking away, Lu Wenzhou reached out and pressed his temples. He could have stood by her side openly. That opportunity was ruined by himself. Lu Su clicked on his phone. "Brother, look, it's live broadcast. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 982. Zhou Tao on the screen has returned to normal, and can even look at Junling with a smile. It seems that there is no dispute between the two of them, and she has not heard any of his secrets. In the camera, the reporter began to ask questions. The Blue Jade Journey, which the two of you will star in together, will be aired soon. There were rumors that the two of you fell in love because of the drama. Since they are in the same scene today, do you want to clarify it? Lu Wenzo could see a subtle hint of displeasure flashing across Zhou Tao's face. It's the displeasure with this question. The beautiful and delicate brows frowned slightly, but it was fleeting. Then he smiled brightly and said, I have clarified it on Weibo before. Teacher Jun and I are ordinary friends. In an instant, 7 or 8 microphones came to Jun Ling's mouth. Teacher Jun, please tell me. Zhou Tao lowered her eyes, her smile stiffened, not sure what Jun Ling would say. After a long while, Jun Ling said, we are indeed ordinary friends. Please, friends from the media, please don't listen to those self-media that follow the wind and rain. A girl's reputation is very important. Who dares to film with me in the future? This is obviously a normal interaction on the set. Deliberately chose an angle to make it look ambiguous, and just said that we are in love. This is not a good trend, you know. The reporter asked Zhou Tao reluctantly, can Zhou Tao tell me what your ideal type is like? Zhou Tao was stunned for a moment, not expecting that the question that followed would be such a question. Although this was her first TV show and her interview experience was very limited, she was not panicked at the moment. She calmed down and said calmly, like teacher Zhou Tianrun. She casually mentioned an old drama star from HK, who was far away and had been sent to the altar for a long time. He was just playing it safe and could never go wrong. The reporters looked at her with disappointed smiles. Everyone hoped to hear some explosive name from her mouth. It was boring to play such a safe card. Then he asked Jun Ling, what about you? What is your ideal type? Zhou Tao took a deep breath, and her hand holding the microphone broke into a cold sweat. Before Jun Ling spoke, he glanced at Zhou Tao. This scene was naturally seen by Lu Wenzo in front of the mobile phone screen. Lu Su said angrily, the media will definitely add fuel to the fire with his glance. Since you don't like Daisy, then don't make such trouble. Jun Ling seemed to realize what her involuntary glance would bring to her, and quickly joked, tonight's best actress, Yao Kewen, Sister Kewen, is my ideal type, intellectual, and dedicated to her acting career. He said something close, and quickly attracted the media's firepower. Almost all the microphones were directed to his mouth, asking, Teacher Yao Kewen seems to be interested in re-signing with the company recently. Teacher Jun, I heard that you recently signed, that's right, otherwise I'll introduce it to your boss so that you can be in the same company as the goddess. Jun Ling chuckled and said, okay, I will definitely recommend it to our boss later. During the interview, he was smiling all the time. When going to the after party, Wen Xiao saw Mr. William, the owner of a neighboring company. He was holding a glass of champagne and leaning on the terrace next to the hotel lobby. From time to time, sexy female stars would come up to talk, but they were all ignored by him. The bodyguard stopped me. The boss is not in a good mood. The female celebrities gathered together and discussed quietly who this big boss was. Wen Xiao whispered, I'm going to talk to this William. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 983. Fu Nanli held her waist and walked together to Hizawei. Hizawei felt that Fu Nanli's eyes were a little sinister. The eldest son of the Fu family should not be underestimated, which is why he has restrained his behavior in the country. If he is not careful, his plan will fall apart and the gain will outweigh the loss. It's better to be steady. Miss Wen. Wen Xiao smiled slightly, Mr. William, thank you for the flowers you sent me at the last horse racing meeting. I hope you won't spend so much in the future. She didn't want to say anything unpleasant, she just wanted the other person to be an understanding person. She has no friendship with this Mr. William, so there is really no need to send her flowers. Apart from making her boyfriend jealous, the bouquet of flowers has no other effect. Hizue seemed not to understand. It doesn't cost a fortune, your movie won a major award this time, and I prepared flowers for you. Fu Nanli's eyes flashed with a sinister look. In front of Chiao Er's boyfriend, this man was too unrestrained. He said coldly, I have already prepared her flowers for her, so you don't have to worry about it. Hizue smiled, it's just appreciation among peers. Is Mr. Fu thinking too much? If you don't have at least trust in your girlfriend, a relationship will not last long. Fu Nanli narrowed his eyes slightly and frowned. This man was obviously trying to sow discord. He said calmly, Mr. William is probably used to living in the West. He doesn't know about my Eastern tradition. When a girl declines your kindness, if you still force her to accept your gift, you will only embarrass her. Mr. William would be too ungentlemanly. Hizue raised his chin slightly, looked at the man in front of him, and then looked at Wen Qiao, will my gift embarrass you? Wen Qiao didn't hesitate at all, yes. Hizue was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't expect the woman to answer like this. What this woman says and does always surprises him, and he can never figure out what she is thinking. The more this happened, the more curious he became. Wen Qiao didn't lie, nor did she care about Fu Nanli's face. Her instinct was that she didn't want to have too much contact with Mr. William in front of her. She was unfamiliar with him, so of course it would be embarrassing for her to send him flowers. Hizue forced a smile, sorry, I didn't think carefully. Since you don't like it, I won't give it away in the future. Fu Nanli was not happy. From what he heard, William didn't send flowers in order not to embarrass Chiao Er. There was such a neighbor around her who cared about her feelings. How could he be happy? Wen Qiao took Fu Nanli's hand and left. Seeing that his face was still gloomy, she asked him what was wrong. Fu Nanli forced a smile, it's nothing. Joel has done a great job and he can't be picky anymore. It happened that some investors recognized him, so he started talking about work. On the other side, Yang Sheng, the boss of Sulu Company, became restless again. Seeing that Wen Qiao's company has already had 4 explosions, only one Zhou Tao is left, and Zhou Tao's Qingyu trip is scheduled for the summer vacation, so the possibility of explosion is very high. She turned her eyes to Fang Duo. Fang Duo is cute, and her appearance is very popular with the people. A low-key sweet drama would be particularly popular, and Fang Duo is silly, so she should be easily poached. She didn't know about the friendship between Fang Duo and Wen Qiao, let alone that Wen Qiao had risked his life to save Fang Duo. Yang Sheng stopped in front of Fang Duo with a tall wine glass and smiled slightly. The movie Tongwei of your company is filming recently was directed by Chu Qinzhu. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 984. Fang Duo was eating snacks when this person suddenly came to talk to her. She was caught off guard and almost choked, then she was a little unhappy, who are you? Yang Sheng introduced himself, and Fang Duo looked like an arrogant young lady, what happened to Tongwei filming a movie? Yang Sheng smiled and said, you, Mr. Wen, are really good with Tongwei, and you can also treat Zhou Tao. The first TV series he filmed was a large-scale fairy tale drama, and the investment was huge. Fang Duo frowned, so what do you want to say? Yang Sheng, it's nothing. I just think your resources in Nanqiao are quite average. The first one is a low-cost idol drama, and the second one is a small idol drama. They are all online broadcasts, and they can't get stars. Don't you have any ideas? Fang Duo, Mr. Yang wants to poach me to join your company, right? Yang Sheng was stunned for a moment. This was too aggressive. Is anyone so outspoken? She didn't even know how to answer the call. She laughed dryly and said, I really admire you. Fang Duo became even more blunt, that's not possible. I will be with Ding Wenqiao for the rest of my life. Mr. Yang, don't even think about it. Yang Sheng was even more embarrassed. Mr. Wen is indeed very charming. Fang Duo, you all know that Mr. Wen has a charming personality and you still come to poach me. Mr. Yang, aren't you feeling uncomfortable? Yang Sheng. Who the hell knew you were a 205? Speak so bluntly. I want to know why you are so sure of Mr. Wen. Fang Duo, she saved my life. Without her, I would have died long ago. Yang Sheng. If there is such a thing, then she really can't hope to recruit people from Wen Qiao's company. It feels like everyone is devoted to her. Fang Duo even waved to someone not far away, and Yang Sheng suddenly heard her calling Wen Qiao. Yang Sheng stretched out her hand and pressed her temple. She was wrong. She really shouldn't have provoked this 250 guy. Wen Qiao came over with a glass of white wine and smiled, what's wrong? Fang Duo said bluntly, Mr. Yang, you just wanted to poach me. Yang Sheng. She was wrong, she really knew she was wrong, let's turn back time. Wen Qiao glanced at Yang Sheng with a half-smile, and knew in her heart that the artists in her company must be bad, so they were poaching around. It seemed that Sulu's acting career was not going smoothly. Her face slowly darkened, and she looked at Yang Sheng with a casual look. If I remember correctly, Mr. Yang seemed to have poached Tong Wei from our company before, right? The smile on Yang Sheng's face was very embarrassing. Fang Duo glared angrily, Mr. Yang, what do you mean? You are also targeting our Wen Qiao. How can you poach someone from a company? What grudge does our Qiao have against you? Today, young Master Fu is present, and Yang Sheng doesn't even dare to quibble, so he can only sincerely apologize, Mr. Wen, I'm really sorry. The artists in your company are really too good. I'm really sorry. This kind of thing will never happen again in the future. I thought Yang Sheng was in her 30s and still had to be so subservient to a girl in her early 20s. But what can be done? In this circle, seniority is not determined by age, but by strength. Wen Qiao smiled slightly, and the smile did not reach his eyes. Mr. Yang envies the excellent artists in my company, so he will find ways to cultivate the artists in his company. I hope he won't stretch his hands so far in the future, otherwise I can't guarantee what I will do. Things come up. Yang Sheng felt a chill on his neck. He probably knew what Wen Qiao was talking about. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 985. It is normal for big fish to eat small fish in this circle. If Wen Qiao really wanted to swallow up her company, it would probably be easy. Firstly, she had the strength herself, and secondly, just by saying a word to young Master Fu promised to destroy her small company immediately. She quickly apologized and said, yes, this will definitely not happen again in the future. After saying that, he left in a hurry, breaking out in a cold sweat. He knew that this was really a battlefield where people were killed without blood. Fang Duo angrily complained for Wen Qiao, I didn't know she even poached Tong Wei. She must be sick and she's targeting you. Wen Qiao pinched her face, it's not because you are all so good. Fang Duo felt a sharp gaze staring at her not far away. She looked up and saw that it was the eldest young master of the Fu family. She quickly shrank back and said, stop touching me, or your boyfriend will find someone to beat me up. After saying that, he quickly slipped away. Wen Qiao shrugged and saw Fu Nanli put the goblet in his hand into a waiter's tray and walked towards her. Brother Nanli, she smiled preemptively and called out softly. Fu Nanli put his big hands around her slender waist, Are you so obsessed with women? Wen Qiao. She was too unjust. Zhou Tao stood on a terrace in the corner as usual, trying to minimize his presence. Fortunately, when Qiao was here, she was also a dazzling beauty, and she was accompanied by the eldest young master of the Fu family, so she attracted most people's attention. Occasionally, some investors and directors would come up to chat with her, but she would always be calm. Those big bosses know who they are and which actresses can be lurked and which ones can't. You can understand them after just a few words. Next, Zhou Tao was ignored. She drank alone in silence. After drinking 2 small glasses of champagne, her face felt a little hot. The phone in her handbag vibrated. She took it out and saw that it was a call from Grandpa Lu. She tilted her head slightly to answer the call. When Lu Wenzhou looked over, he saw her tilting her head to answer the phone on the dimly lit terrace. Her thick curly hair slightly covered half of her face, and her slightly upturned nose and swaying red lips were faintly visible. Zhou Tao called out softly, "Grandpa Lu." "Over there," Mr. Lu sighed, "Girl, look how long it has been since you came back to see me." Zhou Tao felt a little guilty. Because of her complicated relationship with Lu Wenzhou, she did not dare to return to Kyoto or the Lu family mansion. "Sorry Grandpa Lu, I went back to see you recently." The old man's tone immediately became happy. "Is it true? Girl, you can't keep your word. My TV series will start promoting in the middle of this month. I'm not busy these days. I'll go back and see you then." Okay, then I'll be waiting for you at home." "Okay." After hanging up the phone, she looked up and saw, through the crowds of people coming and going, beside the wooden spiral staircase, Lu Wenzhou, who was standing tall and graceful, looking at her. Zhou Tao couldn't tell what he felt about that look. Quiet, powerful, and non-intrusive. In short, it won't make her feel uncomfortable. She even took a second look at him. He was wearing a hand-tailored suit, his short hair was neatly trimmed, and he was holding a tall wine glass with his slender fingers, leaning lazily on the wooden stairs. There were female celebrities who wanted to strike up a conversation, but they seemed to be put off by the alienating aura around him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 986. He seemed to be separated from this bustling Vanity Fair, standing alone and isolated from the world. Zhou Tao finally withdrew his gaze and breathed out lightly. Lu Su came over holding a wine glass. "What are you looking at?" Zhou Tao shrugged, "Nothing." After the two chatted for a while, Lu Su went to his brother again, and his brother slapped him on the head and taught him a lesson. "Who told you to get close to her?" Lu Su was stunned. "Huh? I can't even get close." "Aren't you one of her previous scandal targets? Aren't you afraid of getting close to her and letting others catch her? This is a public place." Lu Su was stunned. His brother was starting to become more humane and consider others. This is a leap forward. "Well, that's because I didn't think carefully. But we are in the same company and we will have many opportunities to appear in public together. And I talked to her openly. If the media dares to write nonsense, sue them to death." This is also what Lu Wenzhou envied Lu Su. Lu Su can appear openly beside Zhou Tao because they are colleagues. And he can't. He doesn't have that position. After 12 o'clock, the box office of successive movies came out. In just 1 hour, the box office reached 40 million. Including the pre-sale tickets that have not been picked up, the conservative estimates given by major apps are that the box office on the first day exceeded 100 million. After all, this time slot was chosen really well. The director just won the Golden Plum Award for Best Director, and it was released the next day. In addition, it has received a lot of praise from previous screenings. This movie grossed at least 800 million to 1 billion at the box office. Mr. Wen suddenly became the envy of everyone in the circle. Wen Qiao was calm. He booked a small hall and invited his family and friends to watch the movie. When he came out, he was surrounded by fans. A group of more than a dozen girls who looked like middle school students, holding mobile phones in their hands, wanted to take photos with her. Wen Qiao declined. She was not a star, and she didn't like this kind of life of being sought after. Fu Nanli, who was watching the movie with her, pulled her into his arms and said coldly, "No photos, no group photos." He was not as thoughtful as Wen Qiao at all. The middle school students were so cold by his aura that they only dared to take photos secretly. Later, Qin Bei and the others kindly asked him to delete those photos. The little girls could only reluctantly delete those photos, and then hugged each other and cried bitterly. Sister Wen Qiao is so beautiful. But her boyfriend is so mean. That's right, that uncle was so fierce when he glared at me, I was scared to death. If a man holding Wen Qiao hears this, I'm afraid. Okay, it's okay for a junior high school student to call a 30-year-old man uncle, okay, it's barely acceptable. Zhou Tao took a plane to Kyoto. She probably made some inquiries and heard that Lu Wenzhou was in Haikan these days and was very busy, so she hurried back to Kyoto first. The old man's car picked her up at the airport, and it was a winding journey to the mountainside villa. Zhou Tao got out of the car and had to cross a huge swimming pool. The summer sun was hot, so she raised her hands to cover her eyes slightly, but she saw another black Bentley parked next to the fountain. The person who got out of the car was Lu Wenzhou, who was wearing a white shirt. Zhou Tao is wearing a pair of flat shoes, and even her sprained feet can be flat. Or because she didn't expect Lu Wenzhou to appear here, she tripped on her feet and fell straight into the swimming pool nearby with a plop. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 987. Lu Wenzhou's heart sank, he ran towards her, jumped up to her side, and grabbed the person who was flopping around because he couldn't swim. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid." After saying that, he held her waist and took her to swim to the shore. Because Zhou Tao couldn't swim, she choked on her water when she first fell. After being rescued by Lu Wenzhou, her body was still trembling slightly. It seemed like she was always embarrassed every time she appeared in front of him. The sun was scorching, and Zhou Tao sat slumped on the ground, her hair disheveled, and her body dripping with water. Lu Wenzhou wanted to hug her, but she grabbed his wrist and said with a trembling voice, "No, I can go by myself." The housekeeper stood aside, and Zhou Tao helped the housekeeper's uncle's arm. The housekeeper felt that the second young master looked at him with a gloomy look, and his back felt cold on a hot day. But Zhou Tao just held on to the butler's shirt sleeve and walked slowly into the mansion. Lu Wenzhou, who was also soaked, could only follow behind. Mr. Lu was shocked when he saw this. "What's going on with you two? It's not raining outside, why are you all wet?" Zhou Tao forced a smile to comfort the old man. "I accidentally fell into the swimming pool." The old man was even more shocked. "Huh? You can't swim, so you're not choking or scared?" The housekeeper hurriedly said, "It's okay, the second young master will jump down immediately and take care of Miss Zhou." The old man was worried. "Then you two quickly go up and change into a set of clean clothes." Embarrassingly, the two were pushed into the same room by the servant. This was also the wedding room of Lu Wenzhou and Zhou Tao. About a month later, Lu Wenzhou said he wanted to live outside with Zhou Tao so as not to be disturbed. However, he rarely stayed overnight in houses outside. Zhou Tao looked at the unchanging furnishings in the room and knew where the cloakroom was. She was wearing a goose yellow shirt and jeans. If she took one step, a watermark would be left on the floor. The central air conditioning was on in the mansion, and Zhou Tao was shivering from the cold. Lu Wenzhou said softly, "You go in and change clothes first." Zhou Tao was not polite to him and hurried into the cloakroom. After entering, he became even more embarrassed. When she came to the Lu family mansion, she brought a suitcase and a few sets of clothes. She stayed here for a month and took those sets of clothes with her when she left. Therefore, the closet in this cloakroom is full of Lu Wenzhou's clothes, including white shirts, black trousers, and black suits that all look similar. Zhou Tao rubbed her hands and breathed hot air into her palms. She was in a dilemma. In the end, she couldn't bear the cold and stiffness of her body. She stuck her head out and said cautiously, "There are no clothes of mine in there." Lu Wenzhou was startled for a moment. This was the first time in a long time that he took the initiative to talk to her. He couldn't catch it for a while. After a while, he said, "Wear my white shirt. I also have sweatpants. There is a tie around the waist. Just tie it up." Zhou Tao could only retreat into the cloakroom, pick out a white shirt and dark gray sports trousers, then poked her head out and whispered, "Can Aunt Jean come in?" "What's wrong?" Zhou Tao lowered her eyes, as if she didn't want to say anything more to him. "Please call Aunt Jean." Lu Wenzhou took a step forward with a worried look in his eyes. "Is there something uncomfortable in your body?" Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 988. Zhou Tao scratched the door frame. "No. What happened?" Zhou Tao had no choice but to tell the truth. "My underwear is also wet. I want Aunt Jean to help me find a dry one." Lu Wenzhou was stunned for a while, feeling a little embarrassed, and then immediately went out. After a while, Aunt Jean gave Zhou Tao a piece of underwear. Although the size didn't quite fit, it was at least enough to handle it. She put on Lu Wenzhou's shirt and sports trousers, and Aunt Jean didn't offer to get her a set of women's clothes. After all, the old man still hoped that the two young people could get back together. Zhou Tao walked out of the cloakroom with her sweatpants on and said to Lu Wenzhou, "Go in and change." Lu Wenzhou pointed to the hairdryer on the bedside table. "Blow your hair." Zhou Tao nodded, "I know." Lu Wenzhou walked to the cloakroom. Looking back, Zhou Tao squatted down and rolled up his trouser legs, because his trousers were too long for her to wear. Just such a simple action, a simple daily routine, but now it has become a luxury for him. When she left the mansion, they were strangers again. He can't step into her circle, and she won't provoke him again. He stood at the door of the cloakroom and just looked at her. But she didn't know it, rolled up her trouser legs, stood up, looked down, then walked to the bed, turned her back to him, picked up the hair dryer, and started drying her hair. Lu Wenzhou watched for a while before finally entering the cloakroom. Zhou Tao finished drying her hair, put away the hair dryer, picked up a few long hairs scattered on the bed and the floor, and threw them into the trash can nearby. When she turned around, she saw Lu Wenzhou, who had already changed his clothes and was standing at the door of the cloakroom. Lu Wenzhou watched her make the bed. She once lived in the place where she lived, but now she is so careful, for fear of growing her hair or messing up the bed. When Zhou Tao saw him, she just nodded distantly, then turned and walked out. Lu Wenzhou followed closely behind. He was tall and following behind him gave Zhou Tao a strong sense of oppression, so she quickened her pace. After going downstairs, Mr. Lu held her hand and said, "I'll ask Aunt Jean to make you a bowl of ginger tea and drink it later." Zhou Tao smiled, "It's okay, the weather is hot and it's not freezing. Drink it to prevent a cold." The two of them sat together and chatted. Lu Wenzhou stayed by the side and did not see him leave. Zhou Tao always felt a little uncomfortable being watched with a vague gaze, so she turned back and glanced at Lu Wenzhou, only to find that Lu Wenzhou was watching TV and not looking at her. Zhou Tao was a little embarrassed and felt that she was being sentimental. In the evening, Zhou Tao said she was leaving, but the old man was reluctant to leave. Let's have dinner before leaving. Zhou Tao shook the old man's hand. I'm sorry, Grandpa Lu. I have activities to attend early tomorrow morning, and my flight back to Hiken has been booked. I have to go to the airport early. The old man sighed. There are many entertainment companies here in Kyoto. You really like the entertainment industry. I will set up a company for you just to support you, okay? Zhou Tao smiled. Thank you, Grandpa Lu. My current company is also very good. I will come back to see you often. She is now trying hard to convince herself that when she sees Lu Wenzo, just pretend she didn't see him, and she is trying hard to let herself block an ordinary passerby with Lu Wenzo. It might be a little difficult, but she believed that she would slowly overcome this obstacle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 989. The old man had no choice but to ask the driver to take her to the airport. Lu Wenzo said, I'll drive her to the airport. No need. Zhou Tao refused directly. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little awkward, and Zhou Tao said again, no, thank you, just ask the driver to take me there. Lu Wenzo actually wanted to fight for it. I'm sitting in the back seat. The car is parked in the parking lot. I won't get out of the car. The car window is made of privacy glass so no one can see it. Zhou Tao lowered his eyes and said, I won't trouble Mr. Lu. Lu Wenzo lowered his hands and said in a deep voice, then let Uncle Chen take you to the airport. Zhou Tao didn't hesitate or show any pretense. She turned around and left the mansion. Mr. Lu looked at his grandson and snorted, if I had known now, why bother at the beginning? Lu Wenzo didn't say anything. The old man felt a little distressed when he saw his lonely look, but he couldn't help but said, you deserve it all. If you didn't cherish it when you got married, who are you showing this to? Lu Wenzo said coldly, have you taught me enough? You brat, who are you talking to? What's your attitude? It's your fault that you can't get your wife back. Lu Wenzo walked out the door indifferently. It's raining in Hiken. Following All the Way has been released for 5 days, and it has already collected 500 million in box office, which is almost 100 million a day. You know, except for weekends, Monday and Tuesday are the coldest days for the market, and it has not yet reached the peak of summer vacation. During the period, it was able to maintain such a stable performance, and the film's box office and reputation have exploded. Soo-yoon has been keeping an eye on the online box office trends for her, and will come over to report to her soon. Chiao Chiao, it has increased by 10 million again. Wen Chiao, oh. It's broken 500 million. It's broken 500 million. The director is drawing a congratulatory picture for breaking 500 million. It's quite cute. Wen Chiao glanced at it, it's really cute. Soo-yoon, why are you so calm, kid? Wen Chiao, Tong Wei's previous movie also broke 500 million box office. Soo-yoon, you girl, it seems like your mother is not calm. And your uncle, look at him like that. Have you ever heard such a large amount of money in your life? Why is his reaction so dull? Wen Chiao, my uncle is not very sensitive to numbers. Wen Chiao had a vague feeling that his uncle should have a very powerful status, very good medical skills, and the boss of the robot company was his friend. He is like an outsider, very mysterious, and seems to have many secrets hidden in him. But her uncle didn't want to say it, and she wouldn't forcefully pry. She would wait until he was willing to say it. Uncle, I'm going to the company. Do you want to visit? Susie went to her company with Wen Chiao. Wen Chiao drove the car. Because it was raining, the wipers swayed from time to time, and a thin layer of fog formed on the windows. Wen Qiao turned the steering wheel and entered Bihai Road. Plane trees were planted on both sides of Bihai Road, with lush branches and leaves, covering the sky, and the drizzle was falling. While driving, Wen Qiao introduced to him what kind of company this was and which famous artists there were. Su Ce leaned his elbow on the car window and said calmly, "I don't even recognize what you are talking about." Wen Qiao was silent. "Don't you pay attention to things in the entertainment industry at all? I know several of the artists in your company, and they only watch them because of you." "Wen Qiao, what about before? Don't you watch entertainment programs? Don't watch, just stay in the lab all day." A black Bentley drove in the opposite direction and passed by slowly. Su Ce suddenly stared at the looming figure in the back seat of the Bentley. "There's not much to say, just wish you all a happy Monday. May Day is coming soon, hold on. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 990. Because it was a rainy day, the light was dim, the vision was blurry, and it just passed by. He seemed to see he's away. Just as he was about to take a closer look, the car roared past and he turned to look. Wen Qiao felt a little strange. "What's wrong? I seem to have seen an acquaintance just now. Are you familiar? That car seems to belong to the boss of the company next to me." Su Ce's expression changed slightly. "The company next door to you? What's its name? And what's the boss's name?" "Wen Qiao, the company's name is Huihe Media. The boss seems to be a Chinese who has returned from China. He is probably of mixed race. His name is William." Su Ce frowned. "William? He's Huihe's English name is not William, but Steve." He did see that familiar shadow just now. Therefore, he must have made up a name at random, and he must have deliberately approached Qiao. Because Gu Xiao was injured, he came back to take revenge. Huihe likes to play games, like a cat and a mouse, playing with the prey enough before finally delivering a fatal blow. Therefore, the unfinished building that Qiao was deliberately introduced to was probably Huihe's work, and it was indeed his style. He was suddenly frightened. Fortunately, Qiao took her to her company today. Otherwise, when would he know that Huihe had lurked around Qiao? He was so close to her, and it would be so easy to do something if he really wanted to do something. Su Ce calmed down. "How long has this William moved here?" "You moved here in the first half of this year, just a few months ago." "What happened?" Su Ce's eyes darkened. "Go to your office first. I have something to tell you." It was rare that his expression was so solemn, and Wen Qiao felt a little oppressed for a moment. The car parked and the two of them went upstairs together. The secretary brought 2 cups of coffee. Wen Qiao sat at the desk, looking at his silent uncle, feeling increasingly unsure. "What's wrong? A voice flashed through your mind before, asking you to stay with Fu Nanli, right?" Wen Qiao slowly stood upright and looked at his uncle in disbelief. "You, how did you know?" "There is no reason for my uncle to know." Su Ce said calmly, "Because I implanted that voice in your head." "Wen Qiao." She was silent for a full minute. She obviously knew every Chinese character, but she couldn't understand what her uncle said. "What does it mean?" "Su Ce, you have been suffering from such a disease since you were 17 years old. It is an unexplained blood disease. I am afraid that there will not be another case of your disease in the world. Moreover, at that time, your little girl's family had a strong sense of self-esteem. I was willing to ask for money from Wen Jianmin, and I couldn't see through Sulu's tricks, so I stayed in Haikan for a while that year." Wen Qiao was so shocked that he couldn't say a word and could only listen to him quietly. "Your blood is also very rare. Only Fu Nanli can strictly match your blood type. Not only for the sake of your body, but also for your future, I implanted some memories into you, that is, If you live according to your original character, you will have memories of life, causing you to think that you are reborn, but in fact you are not. When Xiao understood that if her uncle had not implanted that memory, she would indeed be fooled by Sulu and her life would be a mess. Xiao Mo and Xiao Qi would not be saved.